Listen, laugh, and learn with Sacha and Ish as they share their experiences, thoughts, and tips to build skills that are not so average and a career that's not so ordinary. This is the Not So Breakfast Show.
All right, welcome to the Not So Breakfast Show today, the podcast for leadership and career development. And today we are talking about engagement online. How do we present on webinars, seminars, or even just show up in a meeting or host a meeting that's virtual, online, in a way that's engaging, that you can deliver your content or engage your audience through a screen? Because although it's a similar skill set to presenting on a stage and in front of a live audience, it is different because you can't reach out and get all touchy-touchy. Not that we should do touchy-touchy with, people that we're speaking to, but you kind of get the idea, right? You're not there. They can be on their phone. They could be distracted. And it's come through from one of our listeners, Stephanie. You know who you are, Steph. And she's been doing the 30-minute presenter program, and this was a way for her to reach out and just get some more information on engagement. I do a lot of webinars. How do I engage people and be more engaging? And to help me with that, one of the engaging people on the call today, Sacha Coburn. What's going on?
I'm so pleased to be here on the Not So Breakfast Show today because we're recording this at 4:15 p.m. and I'm just eating my breakfast. So it is not so breakfast. And I know for a lot of people, they would be like, yeah, so same with me because I do intermittent fasting. No, I just forget and I just got busy. And we're about to record this. I'm like, I have no thoughts in my head. It's just empty in there. I'm like, you haven't fed your brain today. So yay for breakfast at 4 in the afternoon. And also yay for this idea of online engagement. You and I are of the age, Ish, that online engagement used to mean mail order brides. You used to go onto an internet site for foreign places and say, I'll have that one, thanks, and exchange some money and you'd have online engagement. But this is it's a real problem or challenge for us because even though there's more hybrid work now, so after the pandemic, there's this rush to get people back into the office. What most organisations realise is that a combination is good. People can do deep and quiet work at home. They appreciate being able to get up and put their washing on at the same time. There's some really good both productivity and wellness benefits that come from that. And there's a whole lot of team building and connectivity and collaboration benefits that come from being in the office. But when you've got a mix of people in the office, people at home, this whole online meeting phenomena is going to continue. We're going to continue having meetings, webinars, educational sessions, and we've got to get better at it. We have to get better at it to make it more effective for both the people who are imparting knowledge and those that are there to learn and contribute.
Definitely. And although it's different to presenting in front of a group, what you need to realize is it's still presenting in front of a group. It's just that they're not there. And so what you want to start to look at is, well, how can you create it in a way that feels more interactive? And one of the tips I'm going to say right at the start is make sure people have got their cameras on. If you can control that so that you can see facial expressions, see people laugh and respond, see people who might be drifting away and nodding off, you want to have that feedback. So definitely having cameras on is one of the ways that you can build engagement because it's much more real than just talking to nobody and then you have no idea whether they're on their phones or not.
So I think that's your gold standard and it's the starting point. Everybody's camera on. There's two arguments that count against that and I've got some thoughts around it. The first is that one of the reasons that our brains are kind of overwhelmed at the moment is that when we put our camera on, we get a different feedback to when we're in a real life meeting. So if you and I were in a real life meeting right now, the only person I could see is you. And so my focus and attention would be on you. But right now we're filming this and I can see myself. So
I can see me.
Yeah, and you can see you too. So you get this visual feedback where you become hyper aware of how you look. So most of the time, Ish, when we're recording, I'm not listening to you. I'm looking at myself and going, damn, that is one fine, good-looking woman. Or I'm noticing things where I'm not so happy with what I see. And so when people have their cameras on, there's another level of noise that goes on inside their head. So there is some research to suggest that in some learning environments, it can be more beneficial for people, particularly if you are listening to something for a longer period, actually turn your camera off so you're not getting the visual stimulation. That's the first point. The second point is, particularly in webinars and online seminars and things, if you're international, you want to be able to tune in from wherever you are. So, for example, there was a finance seminar that I wanted to listen to the other day, and in my time, it was 5:30 a.m. And so I literally set my alarm, rolled over in bed, and just watched while I was in bed. Now, nobody needs to see that. And if my choice is taking part in something that's going to help grow my knowledge base, or getting up at 5 a.m. so that I'm ready at my desk at 5:30, I'm just not going to turn up. So I think there are situations where people will have their cameras off. But what I would ask people to do, if you're a participant and you can have your camera on for a time, then do that. So if, say, there's 30 people on a webinar, all the presenter needs is 10 faces giving them some feedback, and those faces might change. So you might be in it for 10 minutes and then you turn off your camera for 5 minutes, because you do actually have to do something else at the same time. As long as the presenter's getting some visual feedback, that will increase their ability to connect with the audience.
And that's actually one of the things you can do, picking up on that point. If you are hosting a webinar for someone and you've asked them to come and speak, then make sure that there is some people that are going to be on screen who give good face, who are going to smile, and that you should do that as well. You should be engaged. If you're sitting there like, you're just watching TV, which is what a lot of people are doing, right?
Okay, if you're not watching this video clip, what Ish is doing with his face now, I can't describe it. He's just given the most, what I would call dungy look. He has this dungy look on his face where he's just like, what?
Yeah.
What? That's what he means when he's saying if you're just a blank face.
Yeah. So set the atmosphere, if you're hosting it, to set your speaker up for success, because otherwise they've got a lot of work to do, but you can create that. You can say, look, I want to have at least 10 people with the camera on. Can we make sure that we show up and be all smiley and that? And it's a better experience for everybody. And then to your point, then people could choose to have cameras off or not. If it's a work meeting, I really do encourage a lot of my team to be on. 100%. That's what you're paid to be doing.
Non-negotiable. Be there, turn up.
Cameras on, let's go. But yes, if you're delivering a webinar, you have no control really about that. So let's say that you are presenting. You need to be bigger than you think you need to be when you are delivering through the screen. So when you're on a big stage, you've got to be big. When you're in a group of 2, you can just have a normal conversation. Group of 5, normal conversation. Group of 10, a little bit bigger. Group of 40, a little bit bigger. But when you're on a big stage, you've got to bring it. And unfortunately, when you're online, you've got to bring it as well. So I would encourage you to amplify yourself. Think of it like little person, big person. And the more virtual or bigger the stage, the more you need to dial up and be bigger. And that's your movements, your gestures, your voice, your tone, your smiling. Everything needs to be bigger because everything around you is trying to swallow that. So definitely be aware of that, and also record yourself and watch it back. Because if other people were bored, there could be some really good cues in what you were actually delivering and how you were delivering it.
Yeah, I love that. And I love the challenge that my friend, a speaker out of Australia, Blythe Rowe, what she asks her audience, where she says, are you guys having a good time? And people go, yay! And she says, you should let your face know. And I think that is so true, that we can often be having a really good time, but we engage with our screens the same way that we watch TV. So when you go and see a stand-up comedian and it's live, nothing beats live, and you are energized, you're there, you laugh, the laughter from everyone else builds, and it's amazing. When you watch a Netflix special, at best, you might have a wee chuckle to yourself. So that's the same when we're doing these kind of events or interactions on a screen. We are naturally more muted, and so that's why I love what you're suggesting about setting people up to give that good face and to be that good audience member as part of the interaction. I've got a whole host of things. They're kind of like hot tips that we could go through that I think are important. So shall I just go through my list?
Yeah, you go through the list and then we'll just keep adding.
Okay, so the first thing is to understand the attention span. So I reckon that every 10 minutes you've got to do something where you throw to the group.
Yes.
So that you ask for an interaction or engagement of some sort with the group. It might be that you straight away from the start, you set up the chat. You say, right, guys, set up the chat. First thing I want you to chuck in the chat, please, is chuck your name in, and then you do something that is appropriate.
And where are you from?
To the group. Where are you from? Chuck your name into the chat and let us know what your death row meal is. Whatever's appropriate for the group that you are. I'm not sure what group it's ever appropriate for death row meal.
Who are you speaking to with the death row meal?
But it's a really interesting question, right? People go, I can only have one more meal. What's it going to be? So whatever it is that you're trying to achieve with that, right? So you get the chat set up. Then what you are doing is that you've designed your session or your meeting so that at least every 10 minutes you're going to the chat. You go, righto, guys, based on what we've just been talking about, what are some of the things that are popping up for you? And you get the chat going, then you can mirror and feedback in that way. And in the 30-minute presenter program, we talk about this idea of ramping interaction, that you don't just start your session by saying, great to have you guys here. My name's Sacha. I always start with a song, la, la, la. And so now who would like to sing in response? Never going to happen. So in the chat and the interactions you have, you're letting people warm up. So let them ask their questions or make their comments in the chat. And then you might draw it out. And eventually, as your audience warms up, you might then go to the stage where 20 minutes in, you invite people to speak with their cameras on. So think about that ramp and get the chat going.
Good.
I'm also huge on prizes. So if it's a webinar with an audience that you don't know or a seminar that you're running, I think you set prizes for engagement up right from the start. And you can say, oh, that is so cheesy. And I'm like, yes, and it works.
Yes.
So whenever I'm speaking both in real life and online to audiences I don't know, I say, guys, you don't know each other. I don't know you from a bar of soap. It's going to be great if you've got a question or you're willing to share. That's going to benefit us all, and I want to reward you. So we've got coffee, we've got hot chocolate, we've got Frank Green, you name it, it's coming your way. Everyone who interacts today has an opportunity. You're going to win. So whatever is appropriate in your context, how can you gamify the interaction that you've got? So those are some things that I do. I've got a couple more, but share some of your wisdom, Ish, please.
Thanks.
Have a turn.
Throw to someone else.
Else.
So one of the things that you do want to take into account is when you're speaking on stage, you can create an atmosphere. You can control the image behind you. You can control the temperature in the room. Sometimes you can control the music that's playing before you get up. You can probably even control the smell if you really did it right. So then there's things, well, what can you control from a presenting point of view? And I want to segment this into two types of presentations. There will be a webinar seminar type of presentation. And Sacha, I know you've got some really good views on how you should show up to that and what engagement you could maybe do. But then you've also got a presentation where it's a work presentation. You're presenting to maybe 30 people, 10 people, whatever it is, but you've got to have a slide deck. You just have to, because it's you're going through a certain amount of information. You need to make that slide deck visual. It can't be bullet points that you're just reading through. It needs to be pictures. It needs to be engaging, because what is helpful about the deck is it can keep you on point for when you're delivering something that you need to be delivering logically, but it can also be a distraction from what you're doing, and it can also make you pretty small. And Sash, you've got some really good information on that as well.
Absolutely agree. If you've got to use a slide deck, then it's incumbent on you to make it as interesting as it possibly can be. And sometimes the interest comes from just having a great visual and moving with a certain amount of pace through it. So if you do
or coming in and out of it. Share, not share, share, not share.
Yes, share, not share. And I think it was you that told me the other day that the reason they're called bullet points is people die of boredom waiting for you to say them because they've already read them.
Yeah.
Something like that. I thought that is so true. So if you've got a slide up that's got text on it, everybody's read it in like
Yeah.
10 seconds, and now you are insulting their intelligence by reading it to them. So my view about if you're doing a webinar, so you're trying to sell something or it's an educational seminar, I just think ditch the slide deck altogether, because the most powerful communication vehicle you have is your face and your movement, and you want that to be as big as it can be on the screen. You don't want to be tucked away in the corner. Nothing about your slides is so special. What's special is the power of your conviction and communication. And if you do want to draw something, just get a sketch pad and draw it live for people.
Yeah.
Literally hold it up, draw it up, put it in front of the camera, and it's more interesting, it goes quickly, and it's more interactive because people are watching to see what it is that you are drawing or putting up. It's a bold move, but I think it's a really class move to ditch the deck if you can.
Nice. Love it. Love it. Another thing just to take into account is when you're actually going to be delivering the webinar. Is it just after lunch? Is it first thing in the morning? What have they just been doing previously? I had an epic fail during COVID. It was awful. So I had done a pretty amazing team building event online when we were in lockdown. So it was, we all had to wear a tinfoil hat. We had to, we were playing this game called Garctic Phone, and it just went on. It was probably an hour and a half, and it was things like there was a treasure hunt where it was like, all right, you're going to find something that was made before 1997. Go. People were running around the house and bringing it back, and it was so much fun. We just had such a good time. Everyone's having a few drinks. It was on a Friday. It was just epic. Someone gave feedback to Philip Mills that the session was amazing. And so then Philip wanted me to do it for his team. Now, I was probably a little bit nervous because I was like, okay, I don't really know that team anymore. It was a pretty, crazy event. What I didn't realize is it was at the end of a 4-hour meeting and nobody really wanted to see staying on to play a game with the smoke and mirrors guy with the tinfoil hat. And so what started reasonably well soon dropped off pretty quickly, and there was just a few people left. And at the end, I was like, yeah, good lesson learned, Ish. I should have asked. So, who am I speaking to? How long have they been on the call? What's the context? All of that. I completely missed it. Thought I could bring the smoke and mirrors, and yes. And if you're on that call, I apologize.
We'll be right back.
If there was one skill that could double your income, advance your career, and increase your ability to influence, it is the skill of presenting. Whether it's on stage, in the boardroom, or at a job interview, the 30-minute presenter program will help take you to the next level. So check out our Instagram page, click the link in the bio, and get started on the 30-minute presenter program.
And no apology. Like, yes, good insight, but how often have we done that where we say webinar A or situation A worked in this context and it just does not immediately transpose into another context, different team who didn't know you, different willingness to play, actually want to get on with their job because they've been away from their job for X amount of time. It's such an important insight to check what is the temperature in the room. Always when we are speaking, whether it's online or virtually, you're looking to meet the audience where they're at and then lift them. And what we sometimes do is we go, oh, we've got to be energetic. So we start really energetic. And people are like, oh, what's this crazy person doing? So as much as you and I would both agree about bringing the energy, it's also about meeting people where they're at and then slowly bringing them up. I love what you're saying about go and get things from around your house, because one of the things that I've successfully done is have scavenger hunts, which is exactly what you're talking about. But if it's a newer crowd and you don't actually want them to, you don't feel like they would engage with running around the house, you just play with things on your desk. So you go, right, I want everyone to grab the thing that's closest to them in their left hand and pick it up and put it on your camera. I'd like you to find the thing on your desk that means the most to you. And some of these questions just cause reflection for people. And it's also really useful if those things then lead to a point. So, for example, you might say the 1997 thing, pick something up that's on your desk that didn't exist in your childhood. So if I play that game right now, I've got a remote control on my desk. And so you can link that into a point about technology or adaptation, how good we are at adapting. Because when I was a kid, we used to fight about who used to get up to go and change the channel. And now my kids are like, what are you talking about? Get up and change the channel. So you can actually be deliberate about choosing quote unquote fun interactive things that actually play into or build on the theme of what it is that you're talking about. And it's not just fun and silly, it's a break in the concentration and can lead to new ways of thinking.
And to your point, they could ramp. So an interaction could be, okay, I want you just to think, the other day on Tuesday, what were you doing at 10 a.m.? So you just give them something that makes them go, oh, and suddenly they just have to be more engaged than they were previously because there's little questions. So questions, interactions, put a thumbs up in the chat if you thought that was, a good point or whatever it is. Anything that you can do that causes a action and interaction, and then you build in those bigger moments as well that also set context to everything that you're doing.
Oh, I love that. I love the thing too, to think about what's easy for them to engage with at their desk. So for example, if there's an expectation that people have a pen and paper, you go, okay, guys, I just want everybody, just going to give you 30 seconds. It's a 30-second drawing challenge. And all you have to do is in 30 seconds is just draw an animal. Everyone does that, and you say, right, now I want you guys to hold your animals up, and then you can either play some guessing games with it. You can then ask them about what went on in their brain. What judgment did they immediately have? Oh, I can't draw. I couldn't do that. I couldn't think of which animal. And there's so many teaching points that come off that. But at the same time, you've just hooked them into some kind of learning. You've got them back using the that I can't remember the proprioceptor thing where there's more power when you write something, proprioception, than if you just type it.
Yeah.
So lots of things that you're just trying to keep them connected. Let's say you go thumbs up. Also think about what are your party tricks. So Ish, you are newly qualified, I believe, to do the Rubik's Cube.
Yes, I can do the Rubik's Cube.
Yes. So as an example, you might hold up a unsolved cube. And then while you're talking or they're doing an interaction or you send them off into rooms to do some stuff, and when you come back, you're just finishing the solving of it. So there's some unexpected element of what you do. I'll sometimes ask people to do a thumbs up and I'll say, oh, look, next time we're just going to put our little fingers down. And I'll go, Can you guys not put your little finger down? So what I'm doing now is I'm just holding up my hand and just only moving my little finger. And most people can't only move their little finger. And so when you do that and you ask them to do it, what's happening in their brain is they're trying to get their brain to move their little finger and they go, oh, wow. That in itself is just keeping the brain out of this checking out and just watching the screen. So it's all these things that you're trying to do to keep people with you in the moment.
I do a video blog every week for our business, and we went through a stage where it was always my bookshelf was in the background, right? So I always have interesting things on my bookshelf. But we did this thing which was, what's on Ish's bookshelf? That's how it always ended. And everyone would wait to see what I would pull out, and I'd always have something there, and then I'd just talk about it. But yeah, to your point, it's just things that are around, things that are different.
Did you do that in one time? It was a stool sample?
Yeah, so
tell us about that.
My dad made this tiny wooden stool that sat inside like a specimen bottle, and then it had stool sample on the outside. Yeah, so it was so funny. But
the punter in me loves every bit of that. That's classic. One of the things to watch for when you're looking for interaction is, again, and we teach this in the 30-minute presenter program, is think about the quality of your questioning. So if you say to your group, you've warmed them up and there's good levels of interaction, you say, does anyone have any questions?
Yeah.
That's a B grade way to get engagement. So you can prep and plan things like, what questions do you guys have? You might say, there's 2 minutes before I get off the call and I've had 2 questions in the chat. One is about X and one is about Y. So please just vote. I'm going to answer one of them. So you just, again, set up ways of asking for questions in a way that will elicit questions for you. You're trying to avoid those awful death silences unless it's purposeful. And there are sometimes when I will ask for engagement, and it's particularly true when I'm doing leadership training. So in leadership training, if you've got 20 people on a call and you ask a question, I'm really happy for that air to get really thick and like awkward. And people think, surely she's going to talk first. No, I'm not. You guys are aspiring leaders. Someone needs to bloody answer that question. And I'm happy to sit with the awkwardness, but it's designed. What you don't want to have is the undesigned awkwardness. That you go, please, somebody answer the question.
All right, so hopefully that gives you some ideas around how you can build engagement through webinars, through seminars, through your online meetings. First of all, just show up. Amplify yourself. Actually be someone that you want to listen to yourself, and then try the techniques and tips and advice that we've just given you. But my closing piece of advice would be, please make sure you practice. Don't just show up on a webinar and just be giving it a go. Like, have rehearsed that. And we teach you in our 30-minute presenter program to practice in a way that you are going to be delivering it. So if you're going to be delivering it out loud with your big voice and walking around, deliver it out loud with your big voice walking around. If you're going to be delivering it online, why not flip your camera on and deliver it to yourself? Because that's the format. You're going to be sitting down. So there's no real point in practicing standing up, walking around, and then you sit down in front of the camera in front of your 20 people that have just had their lunch and about to zoom out into a coma, not into a Zoom call. So you need to practice in that environment and give yourself that confidence.
Yes, what he said.
Hey, so Sash, there's a new version of The Traders that has just come out. TV3 on demand, Traders Australia.
I'm almost nervous to start watching because I know I will just get hooked and it will suck me in, and there goes hours of my life. But I'm really tempted. You're in it, right? You guys have started?
Yeah, we watched episode 2 last night, and it's the first one. We were like, oh no, here we go, we're hooked. It's different watching it because it's not the UK one, but I quite like the Australian versions of a lot of the shows that they do, and I think, you know, they have made it Australian, and there's some stuff in there that you kind of laugh because it's Australia, but it's great, and there's some interesting personalities. I reckon the people that recruit the people for the show must just sometimes go, yeah, this person's just going to be great TV.
I think I told you that Portia had been watching a lot of Amazing Race, and she's like, we'd be great on this. And I'm like, no, we wouldn't. And when I look at traitors, I'm like, would you want to be a traitor or would you want to be a faithful?
I think I'd want to be a traitor because I think I'd want the control over the uncertainty that you could just be eliminated from the game at any second. At least if you get banished, that's slightly on you on how you played it. But if you got murdered that night, it could have just been, well, it's just luck of the draw sometimes.
Yeah, I agree. I think my personality is I'm so loyal and faithful that I'm literally a faithful through and through. In fact, I know this for a fact. The thing that I am worst at in the whole world is not knowing. So if I didn't know who the traders were, that would drive me absolutely mental. I washed the other day Chris's white tennis cap.
Okay, yeah.
And I'd seen it, and then it wasn't where I'd left it on the dining room table. And I lost like 90 minutes of my life turning our house upside down. Not because he didn't need it. I just couldn't stand not knowing where it had gone. So probably means I'm due for a holiday. But yeah, I think that means I'd want to be a traitor.
So we actually played the card game of the traitors the other day. So Sam's boyfriend had been over in the UK. He brought it overseas and brought it back. So it's just a card game. You deal out the cards and one of you is a traitor, but you don't know who it is. And then basically there's event cards. So there's like banishment, murder, quiet night. Yeah, you're trying to figure out who the traitor is. But then someone can also be recruited, but they didn't get recruited by you. You don't know. So there could be two. It's fascinating. It's really good.
How many players do you need? I'm in. I don't care if we've lost people listening to the podcast now. I just want to know about this.
I think you can play with up to 10 players. We've only played it with 6 so far.
And
we
6
played
is
it with,
enough?
Yep, we played it with 4 the other day and that was fine, but it's better with more people. Yeah.
Okay, so 2 things that I want to say. First of all, yes, I'm going to get that. That sounds amazing. And the second thing is, it's a show off on your part, but I'm here for you. Yay, Sam, having a boyfriend. My children show no signs of ever. 3 of them. 3 from 3 are single. So yay, Sammy! Yay, Sammy's boyfriend.
That's okay. Those engagement mail order bride things, they still work.